بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. So we got to page number 73 from last session. Just a recap from last course. We started with the characteristics of the letters, and we started with the characteristics that has opposites. الصفات التي لها ضد. We talked about the apparent or al-jahr and whisper or al-hams. Then we talked about ashidda, strength, which the opposite for it was ar-rakhawa, softness or looseness, and the bayniya, which is in between. And we said ajid qatin bakat. These are the shadid letters, which is qutbu jad, the qalqala letters, plus the kaf, plus the ta, and the hamza. These are the letters. And then we said the in-between ones are lin umar. And the only reason they are in between is because there is a partial blockage of the sound flow. Then after that, we went to the subject of isti'la and istifal. And we said the musta'li letters, these are khussa, dagt, and qid, which we just discussed in the quiz. And the istifal is all of the other letters. Now, following from the isti'la and istifal, we have the tafkhim ruling and tarqiq ruling. So all of the letters which are musta'liya or elevated, following from that, they will have to be always mufakhama. And from the lowering or istifal characteristic, all of these letters except three are always muraqqaqa. So these three are the subject of today's lecture, inshallah. The first one is alif. Harf al-alif, by itself, it doesn't have any characteristic. It doesn't have any character. So it's a no personality kind of letter. It follows the letter which precedes it, considering tafkhim and tarqiq. And you have to focus here that I said tafkhim and tarqiq because that allows for the ra and for the lam as well. So if the lam before the alif was elevated, was mufakhama, then the alif will be also mufakham. But if the lam was muraqqaqa, then the alif will become muraqqaqa as well. So it depends on the tarqiq and the tafkhim of the letter before it. The examples we have, if you talk about this, لِلطَّائِفِينَ الضَّالِّينَ فَأَصَابَهُ الْعِظَامُ قَالُوا ابْتِغَاءَ خَالِصَةٍ يُرَاءُونَ مِنَ اللَّهِ. These are all cases of tafkhim, and you can see the last two examples is the ra here, because the ra is harf mustafil, it's a lowered letter. However, in this case, because it has a fatha, which we'll come to later today inshallah, because of this fatha the ra became mufakham, and because of that the alif took the ruling of the ra. Same thing with Allah. Allah here, the lam of Allah became mufakham. The reason for that is because there is fatha before it, from min Allah. Because of that, the alif of Allah, which follows the lam, became also mufakham. Otherwise, it's always muraqqaqa after the muraqqaq, like this. إياك الناس شاء يحاسبكم الدنيا بسم الله. And you see here that when we say the tarqiq for the alif, we have to make sure that we distinguish this from other characteristics, like happens when we're reading other recitations of the Quran, that when we do taqleel, for example, for the alif, some recitations they say الناس إياك. This is taqleel for the alif. This is mixing the alif with a little bit of ya. And that's a ruling for other qira'at. It's not the qira'ah of Imam Hafs, right? So in this case, you have to be very, very clear that your tongue, as we discussed from the previous lectures, in the articulation point of the alif, your tongue has to be on a resting position. The tongue is straight. The minute you raise a little bit the back side or the middle side of the tongue, where the articulation point of the ya is, it becomes إياك. Now, إياك, this alif is getting a hint of the ya, which is not allowed. So that's the main reason why people do this, is because they're trying to do tarqiq for the alif, right? And the tarqiq for alif is really simple because it's originally muraqqaq, because it's following these letters. So you have to say iya. It's just a straight tongue. Your tongue is just sitting like this. There is no movement, no up, no down, no nothing. Yeah. The only case which is different is when you have the case before the letter before the alif is mufakham. So that's all the case of the alif. Is there any questions on this one, brothers? No questions. Perfect. So that's the alif. You could see then on the book, the next page, which is the page 74, it shows you the difference between the alif, the mufakham alif, and the muraqqaq alif. So the mufakham alif is different from the muraqqaq alif because the tongue is not in the resting position. You see that the back side of the throat is it's curved there's a curvature in the middle of the tongue and narrowing in the throat, and that produces that additional echo which makes the lower elevated. So when you have time, just scan the QR code and you'll see the animation. You will see how the arrows are moving to give you a very good feeling on how the sound is generated. Now, before going to the lam, I've added something from the book which is from page 149 because I think it's relevant to discuss here as well, and many people actually discuss this subject at this time as well. So this is the subject of the ghunna, right? So the ghunna is one of the things that also follows the letter which is after it, not like the alif which follows the letter before it. The ghunna, especially, and we're talking here purely about the ikhfa al-haqiqi. This is the ruling of concealment on the noon sakina and tanween. In that case, the noon sakina, after you conceal it, the only part left of it would be the ghunna. And that ghunna follows the characteristic of the letter after it from tafkhim and tarqiq. So we will discuss that inshallah at page 49 in extensive details. But I just wanted you guys to know that normally people discuss the ghunna here, although it's not fully letter, it's part of a letter. But because in the ikhfa al-haqiqi, the ghunna becomes elevated, mufakhama and muraqqaqa based on the letter which comes after it. I will discuss that inshallah in a couple of sessions later. The lam is very simple actually. So the only place where the lam is always lowered, is always muraqqaq. The only place where it is mufakham is in the word lafdul jalala, Allah, or the word Allahumma, when it has a fatha or a dhamma before it. There is a breakdown for it, so we have the cases here in the book. So تفخم لام لفظ الجلالة في حالات عند الابتداء بها. So when you start with it, because Allah, the word Allah starts with hamzatul wasl. Hamzatul wasl, if you start from it in this case, it will be maftuha, and following from that fatha, you will get the ruling of the lam of Allah becomes mufakhama. Or if it's preceded by a fatha, قبلها مفتوح, or preceded by something which has sukoon but before it there is maftuh, or if it was preceded by a dhamma, or if it was preceded by something which has sukoon and before a dhamma. So in all cases, anytime you have a fatha or a dhamma before lafdul jalala or the word Allahumma, which means Ya Allah, and it's an older word. So this word is coming from the mother language of the Arabic language, similar to other languages like like the Hebrew or other things. They use this word, right? They use Elohim or something like that, which is very similar to Allahumma. which is in our context, it means Ya Allah. So that's why you see, if you make the dua, you either say Allahumma or you say Ya Allah. You never say Ya Allahumma. Even if that one was mentioned anyway, it's not necessarily something that is the standard. The standard is you either say Ya Allah or you say Allahumma.
Sorry brother, السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
Just a question. إذا تقدمها sorry. إذا تقدمها الساكن بعد الفتح وإلى الله.
نعم.
How do you pronounce it?
وإلى الله.
وإلى. So is it on the lam and the كلمة وإلى إلى?
No, this is we're talking about the lamb of Allah.
Allah, yeah, not the lamb on وإلى الله. So because they had the red on the lamb, what does that mean?
No, here it's just showing you the letters which are interacting with the rule. So Allah and the alif before it which has no haraka and the lam before it which has fatha. So he's highlighting all of the letters which has to do with the.
So even the lam, because the hamza is on sakin. The hamza is sakina, yeah?
The hamza tul wasl.
Yeah.
Yeah, hamza tul wasl doesn't have that. It follows the haraka of
the haraka before it or not after it, is it?
No. So before it there is no haraka because the ila, the alif of ila has no haraka. So it follows the haraka before that. Which
before
is
that, yeah.
Yeah, and the lam has fatha, so it becomes mufakhama.
No, jazakallah. Shukran.
It's also one of the common mistakes. Imam al-Jazari in his poem, he say, وَلْيَتَلَطَّفْ وَعَلَى اللَّهِ وَلَضْ. So he's saying, عَلَى Allah. You need to focus that you don't make tafkhim for عَلَى Allah. Because some people say عَلَى Allah, عَلَى Allah. So they make tafkhim for even the lam before that. Like in this case, they say ilallah, ilallah. Now it has to be ilallah, ilallah. Yani the ila is lowered and Allah is elevated. So you have to make that contrast between the two. Yeah.
السلام عليكم مولانا.
وعليكم السلام أخي محمد.
بالنسبة لتفخيم لفظ الجلالة في الحالة الأولى عند الابتداء بها دائما يكون مفخم ولا
نعم.
أحيانا يكون مرقق؟
لا دائما لأنه راح تأخذ الفتحة.
طب بالنسبة إذا بدأت الكلمة لله مثلا لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض.
نعم.
فما هذه مرققة صحيح ولا؟
هذه مرققة لأنه ما قلت الله، احنا قلنا لله.
لله قصدي إنه ابتدأ في لفظ الجلالة وهي لفظ الجلالة القصد.
نعم إذا ابتدأت فيها كلفظ الله ليس لله.
ليس
لله لأنه بدأت بكسرة مجرورة صارت.
جزاك الله خير مولانا، بارك الله فيك. شكرا لك.
So the question that Brother Muhammad asked is because we said we're starting with it, so we're starting with Allah. So he gave another example where you start with lillah. Now lillah is not the same as Allah. Lillah means li Allah. It's two words, jar and majroor. So the first one is harful lam, which is the harful jar, and lillah. So li has a kasra on it. That's why hamzatul wasl disappeared. And all of these lambs got merged because it was too many lambs to be written together. So it becomes lillah. Lillah because of the kasra. That's similar to when you say bismillah or billah. Again, if it was also preceded by sukun with a kasr, then it becomes yunajjillah. And if إذا تقدمها تنوين. So if there was before it, there was tanween, even though that tanween is tanween al-fatah in this case. Because the tanween is pronounced قومن قومنillah. So the tanween of the noon of the tanween had a kasra on it. That's why Allah becomes muraqqaqa. قومنillah because of the kasra on the noon of قومن, which is not written. It's pronounced like that because of the tanween.
So if we stop at Qawman and then start again after Allah, so it will be heavy. Allah, not.
Yeah. So if you say Qawma, then you say Allah. Yes.
That's correct. Okay.
Yes. If you stop on Qawma and you start on Allah, but that waqf is not allowed because there's no meaning here. This is just experimenting. All right.
Okay. Yeah. That's it.
I mean, maybe قوما الله. Yeah, because this is a sentence, right?
Sentence.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
can't break that sentence.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Shukran.
So there are a couple of tricky cases in the Quran. I'm happy to discuss that later, maybe in a more like if we have time in the end, we'll talk about the beginnings of Surah Ali Imran, for example, because there are lots of locations where there's some special cases. Yeah. But that's the case for the lamb. How are we looking for time? Inshallah, good. Let's go for the ra. So if we finish the ra today, I think we will be doing very well, inshallah. Now, the ra is one of these letters which has lots of permutations. We can really simplify it into maybe a couple of rules. For those of you who studied, engineering or maths, if you use the binary system, then the rule is basically following 248. 248. So for 8 cases, in 8 cases, the ra will be mufakham. Sorry for the sorry, it's not heavy. My bad. In 4 cases it will be heavy, and in 4 cases it will be 8 cases it will be heavy, 4 cases will be light, and 2 cases are in between. So let's have a look quickly. You see here, we tried our best to simplify it. This is the simplified view, by the way. So this is the case of tafkhim. 1, 2, 3 are very similar. 4, 5, 6 are very similar. And then 7 and 8 are kind of special cases. 1 is related to fatha. So anytime the first case is, anytime the ra has a fatha on it, it becomes mufakhama. If the ra has a fatha on it, it becomes mufakhama. The other example is, the second one is, if the ra has sukoon, but before it there is fatha. If the ra has sukoon, but before it there is fatha. And the third example is, the ra has sukoon, before it there is sukoon, before it there is fatha. So all of these 3 are fatha related. The second 3 are dhamma related. Same thing with the fatha. Either the ra has dhamma, or the ra has sukoon, but before it there is dhamma, or the ra has sukoon, before it there is sukoon, before it there is dhamma. So if we memorize these 6, we get more than 95% of the ra'as in the Quran clear. The 7 case is very simple as well, because it has to do with the Hamzatul Wasl. And the 8th case is a very, very special one. Not many words in the Quran have it. Anyways. So let's take the examples. The first one is barakat. Barakat. So ba is lowered, ra is mufakham, and then kat is lowered. Right? Another example is Ramadan. Ramadan. The second example is the word Maryam. Maryam. So here the ra has sukoon. Because it has sukoon, we have to give it the in-between characteristic, which is one of the Lin Umar letters. We studied just now, or last session, sorry, that the in-between letters, when they have sukoon, they get somewhere in between time compared to loose letters versus tight letters or strong letters. So Maryam, 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 and you need to make sure that you don't do repetitions for the ra, because some people say Maryam, Maryam, so they give multiple ra in there. So this is only one single ra, there's no repetition for it. The third case is a case which was asked in the chat. So I told the brothers, some of them who asked the question, to wait for a couple of times. So this is the time today, partially the time. We study this again in more details later. So this is when the ra has sukoon, the sad has sukoon in this case, and the fatha is only on the ain 2 letters before. So now we have 2 sakin letters coming in the end of a word, and how to pronounce it. So in this case, what we do for the pronunciation is we focus on the characteristics of the letters. If you talk about the sad, for example, because it's a loose letter, so it takes time to pronounce. It's also elevated and mutbaq letters. So in these cases, it has to be mufakhama, and the ra has to be mufakhama because of the fatha on the ain. So yeah, and then it's also in between letter. So you have to give somewhere in between time to pronounce it. So the way you read it is you say والعصر 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 like this. Yes, brother Amar.
Assalamu alaikum. Just a question about the second case.
Yes.
Sometimes when you say Maryam, you feel like sometimes you will have to like make an ikhfa by mistake. I don't know, because in my accent it's a bit hard, but it's really well. How can you like prevent it from ikhfa the ra? So sometimes you either say Maryam or Maryam, like you'll hide some of the ra.
Yeah. So you're saying Maryam like this?
Yeah, sometimes it's really hard to say Maryam. I don't know.
Yeah. That's people who have Arabic as a second language problem. No, unfortunately, it's like, yeah. No, you have to focus on the articulation point of the ra, brother. So you say the r, you have to make sure that you pronounce it, but don't make repetitions on it. But it has to be pronounced. There's no version of this way you don't pronounce the r. There's no ikhfa for
Maryam.
the ra. The Arabic language has no ikhfa for the ra.
No, I know there's no إخفاء. عربي is my أنا بحكي عربي طبعا بس قصدي
حبيبي
في المرات يعني sometimes it's a bit hard to
صحيح.
keep
It,
keep
it
in
is
control.
it is tricky, and many people say Maryam like this because
Yeah,
the
that's what I
language,
say.
yeah, the
I'm used to
accent we
say.
use is the lawad ra, but the reality is
Yeah.
in the Quran it has to be Maryam, Maryam, and it has to be also يعني the meme before it has to be lawad, because many people they say that if you want to make the tafkhim for the ra, they pull the meme with it, and they say Maryam,
Yeah.
they say mar, yeah. The
Yeah, I'm more like this. This is my issue. I'm more like that one. Yeah.
It's a practice. So what you do is you distinguish the two, and you say ma, or mar like this. Just practice on the contrast.
Yeah.
And then it's all about repeating it. The more you repeat it, the more natural it becomes.
جزاك
So. Now I know, brother, you Arabic language, but I'm saying this is a common. I have it with people who don't speak Arabic. They struggle with that contrast. The second group is the ones which has dhamma or dhamma related. The first one is umro or imro. Why is saying umro? Yeah. Anyways, let's roll with the example. It's just an example because the ayah I remember it starts with the kasra. Anyways, imro. But in both cases, the ra itself has dhamma, so you have to say imro or umro. Who's that? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just thinking when I was looking at the book, it says umiru. I was just thinking.
Oh, sorry. That's umiru. That's why. Okay, yeah. So that's umiru. I thought it's umru without the hamza. Sorry. Yeah, umiru. Same thing. Umiru. The ra has dhamma on it. The example in the book as well is kafaru. Kafaru. That's another one where people normally don't do it. They say kafaru. They don't do the tafkhim. Or if they want to do tafkhim, they pull the fa with it. And they say kafaru. Kafaru. Both of these are wrong. Kafaru and kafaru is wrong. This has to be kafaru. Kafaru. يعني كافة لود مخفف مرققة, and then the ra is the one which is مفخمة. كفروا. The fifth case is the one which has sukun, but before it there is dhamma. So the example in the book is القرآن مرسلين like this. And the sixth case is the one which has sukun before it dhamma. Also in Surah Al-Asr, you have to say khusra. So you focus on the sin has a very similar case with asad in terms of the looseness, but it's a lowered letter. It's a lowered letter and it's opened. It's not mutbaq. We'll study those inshallah later. So that's why you don't have to make it mufakham, but the ra is mufakham. That's why you can't say khusr. Don't make the sin elevated, otherwise it sounds like sad. So you have to, but the kha is elevated. The kha is elevated. It's not the highest level of tafkhim. It's the third level of tafkhim. So it's still pretty much high. So you have to say khu, khusr, 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 like this, right? You have to make the scene enough time, and then you do the ra. And the ra, you have to do it only one ra. You cannot repeat it. Yeah, and it has to be elevated. The seventh case. So the book talks about when it's sakina and preceded by incidental kasra. So incidental kasra or kasra arida, this is the kasra that is not original. What do I mean by original kasra? The original kasra is the kasra that is pronounced or read, whether the word is if you stop on it or if you continue. If you stop, if you continue, in all cases the kasra is there. It's part of the word. It's not something that is happening by accident, right? So when you say umiru, the kasra on the meme, right? Rabbi, ami, alladhi, the kasra on the all of these, the examples we have, all of these are original kasra. The incidental kasra in this case would be the kasra that happens on hamzatul wasl. So the word irji'un, the kasra on it is incidental because it's hamzatul wasl. So it's only pronounced when you start from it. Otherwise, if you don't, you continue from the word before it. So if you take the other example, الذي ارتضى لهم الذي ارتضى, in this case the ra becomes elevated, or sorry, مفخمة. I keep saying elevated, مفخمة. أم يرتابوا, all of these, because the kasra before them is incidental, you read them with tafkhim. The eighth case is there is a very specific definition here, and we'll have to finish this hopefully later today to understand the full meaning of the definition. It says when the ra has a sukoon, so very similar to the previous ones, ra sukoon, ra sukoon, ra sukoon, and it's preceded by a letter with a kasra and followed by an elevated letter with no kasra in the same word. And the definition is very, very particular here, because we have, this is only in 3 places in the Quran. The words irsada or mirsad or qirtas or firqa. Sorry, multiple, not 3. Sorry, brother Tai. Go ahead.
Yes, brother. I have a question now.
Yes.
Like a word like Fir'aun.
Fir'aun,
is tarqiq.
Yes.
What's the difference between Amir Tabu and Fir'aun? They all have kasra before the ra, and the ra is sakin.
Because in Fir'aun the kasra is original. This one is incidental kasra. This is temporary kasra.
Sorry, can you explain that? I'm not following.
The irtawa. Okay, so if I say Rabbirji'un, right? The kasra here is incidental because of hamzatul wasl. Yeah. Because of hamzatul wasl, you're not pronouncing it. So there is
because there is alif, not hamza. Yes.
So that's different from Fir'aun, because in the case of Fir'aun, the fa has original kasra. And it's not accident. That's the only difference. Yeah. So to simplify this one, really, brother, very simple. All of the verbs or words that starts with hamzatul wasl and the second letter is ra sakina, always make tafkhim. Yani, to simplify it, unless you start from the word, because you might say orkul. Even if you say orkul برجلك هذا مغتسل بارد وشراب, even that the ra becomes mufakhama because of the hamzatul wasl. You started with it become dhamma, because the third letter of the verb ku has dhamma, so hamzatul wasl becomes dhamma. I don't want to distract you guys, that's coming later inshallah. But what I'm saying is يعني for the most part if there is incidental كسرة because of همزة الوصل, then you make تفخيم for the ra after that. In the case of فرعون, it's a different rule altogether because that's natural كسرة to it. Did that answer your question?
Yes, Sheikh, Jazakallah khair.
Yeah, so the eighth case, there is a specific thing in the definition. We're saying the elevated letter with no kasra. With no kasra. However, the examples we have are all with fatha only. So we specifically said no kasra because of something that comes later to distinguish this from another definition, right? So we'll touch this later. So the examples are قرطاس فرقة إرصاد مرصاد, all of these. Yeah. What's happening here is you see the ra has sukun. If the ra has sukun, what we learned from before, from the first 6 cases, is we look before it. Yeah, we look before it. So if you look before it, you see kasra. So technically, ra sakina kasra, you should go for the second case. Sorry, no, that will be the second case on the next table, which is tarqiq. Qir. But because of the ta that comes later, now this ta changes things because it's elevated letter. So that's why it pulls the ra back to elevation. It's like a scale kind of thing. Although my teacher doesn't like me using the scale analogy, but it's a very good analogy. So the ra is sitting in between, and the letters before it and after it are interacting with it, pulling it either right or left to make it elevated. What was this? Why did I put this one here? It's just to, I think, double click on it. Yeah. إذا كانت ساكنة وقبلها كسر عارض ملفوظا أو مقدر ارجعوا ارتبتم أم يرتابوا ربي ارحمهما. So this is the case of همزة الوصل. Now the cases of ترقيق for the ra, we said 8, 4, 2. So this is the 4 cases now. The first 3 is very similar to the first 6 in the tafkhim. So if the ra has kasra, if the ra has sukun before it kasra, like Fir'aun, and Fir'aun, and if the ra has a sukun before it, there is sukun before it, there is kasra. So in this case, you make it also lawad. The additional one here is if you have the ra has sukun and preceded by ya lin. Ya ul lin is what? Is the ya has sukun before there is fatha, not kasra. If the ya has sukun before there is kasra, that's ya maddiya. Mad ya. This ya, the one which is dair, khair, all of these are ya. These are linear. We call it lean. There is med for it as well. We call it meddul lean, which is to haraka. So it's a part of the haqiqi, part of the original med. And in this one, because of the ya maddiya, now it's as if I'm saying kasra before it. Although there is the haraka before the ya maddiya is fatha. So technically, if you look at this at face value, there is ra sakina, there is ya sakina, there is fatha before it. So it should be this case, asr, right? But because the letter before it is ya maddi, which sounds like kasra by itself, that's why it became lawad, muraqqaqa. So that's the only special case when it comes to tarqiq, is the ra sakina before it ya maddiya, ya lean, sorry. After that, we have 2 cases where it's permissible to do both. Heavy and light for the ra. The first one is the word firq or firq, both of them. The rule for it says, if the ra has sukun, as in the ra of firq, this one has sukun, قبلها مكسور, before it there is kasra. So if the ra has sukun before it there is maksur, then it becomes similar to this case. Fir'aun, Midya, right? But because the qaf is coming after it, If the qaf is coming after it, then it becomes like this case. Firqa. Firqa. If I stop at firq, then it also follows this case. That's why I said it's followed by an elevated letter with no kasra. So I'm only removing the case of the kasra. So that's why the only case here for this one is to be pronounced both faces is not if I stop on it, because if I stop on it with proper sukoon, firq, this will be always elevated. So in case I just did read it lowered, I made a mistake. But the other two cases is if I stop on it with, if I continue with tanween, or if I stop on it with ar-rawm, right? Ar-rawm means what? Means a very short, quick kasra. So if I say firqi, or firqi, in both these cases, because of the qaf is elevated and it has kasra, then I could do both. I could do both. The ra becomes elevated or the ra becomes lowered. And if I say firqin كالطود العظيم فانفلق فكان كل فرق كالطود العظيم. That's the first case. The second case فانفلق فكان كل فرق كالطود العظيم. So you could say it both مفخم and مرقق if you continue, or if you stop on it with a rawm, which is because a rawm follows the continuation, because it's like a short kasra. So that's the case of this word. It's a special case only for that word in the Quran, the whole Quran. The second case is happens in two words in the Quran: the word Misr and the word Al-Qitr. These two, if you stop on them, if you continue, one of them is Fatha, so Misra, and the other one is Al-Qitri. Both of them have a clear hukum, either Mufakham or Muraqqaq. But if you stop on it, now it follows a new rule, which says if the Ra has sukoon, before it there is elevated letter which has sukoon, and before it there is kasra. Qi, mi, that's kasra. As, ut, these are both elevated letters, and the Ra has sukoon because I stopped on it. In these two cases, you can do both. You can do Misr, or you can do Misr. You could do Al-Qitr, or you could do Al-Qitr, like this. So Imam al-Jazari, his own opinion, which is not binding for us, because it's all allowed. So both of them, you could do both if you stop on it. But his own choice, he said he will follow the connection rule. Meaning what? Meaning Misra, because it has Fatha originally, so it will be always elevated. So if I stop on it, I'll stop on it with Tafkhim. I'll say Misra. And Al-Qitr, because he said it's always lowered, so I say Al-Qitr, like this, because it's always, if I continue Qitri, then I say Al-Qitr, like this. His choice. So these are the special cases here. Now, if I have 2 more minutes, inshallah, yes, we can look at the I think there is only one slide left. So there is an example here. If you want to take a snapshot for this, snap screen for this, and it will show you all of these ra rules. So you could practice on it, inshallah, in terms of the lowering and the elevation. There's also on page 81, page 80 in the English version. In the bottom you have some QR codes to show you how the elevated and lowered ra, the mufakhama ra and the muraqqaq ra, the heavy and the light ones, are pronounced. You see the curvature of the tongue in the back and the narrowness that happens in the throat area. But that's all the rules for the ra. As you've noticed, like it's a very detailed. It's kind of multiple roots, special cases in there, and even for the same ra, like if you read the second surah, for example, here you say Ya ayyuhal muddathir. Muddathir, now the ra has sukun, kasra before it, it becomes muraqqaq. But if I continue, I will say يا أيها المدثر قم فأنذر مدثر قم. So the ra becomes heavy because of the dhamma on it. So the ra is one of these letters where if you stop on it or if you continue, the rule might change. So it's not always the same. So before we close, brothers, any questions from anyone?
Brother Yasir, Assalamu alaikum. Regarding the above you have given is if we are stopping at ayat number 19, mustamir, so it should be extended because it is having shadda.
Yes, Jazakallah khair. So this case, the ra with shadda. The ra with shadda, it's actually two ra. Yeah? It's two ra. The first ra is sakin, the second ra is ra with haraka. But because you stopped on it, then two ra becomes both of them at sukun. Right? So what happens here, you have two things happening. The first one is the tarqiq and the tafkhim of the ra. So in this case, it's lowered because of it's light because of the kasra on the meme. Yeah, the kasra on the meme before it. So it has to be ir like this. The second one is you have to show the shadda. Now, Imam al-Jazari specifically said, don't do tamtid for the shad. So you don't have to pull the shad, make it long. You cannot make it long. It's not harf mad. It's not a mad, right? Some people say, make it longer. They say mustamir, like you can't make the ra long, right? The ra has a specific timing. So what you need to do is you need to do something which we call a nabr. A nabr is coming later in the book, inshallah, as well. It's basically increasing your sound. You pitch the sound a little bit to show that there is shadda here. So you say في يوم نحس مستمر, like this, mustamir. And when you do this up down in the sound, that shows that there is shadda. That's the only way you can show the shadda, by doing the nabr on the harf al-mushadd.
Mustamir. Okay.
Mustamir, but you have to make sure it's muraqqaq. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there is the other one, like وأمر. The amar, now it's heavy. It's heavy with shadda, right? So that one you say amar, like this. You increase the pitch and as if you're emphasizing on the ra by the sound only. You're not making it longer. You don't do anything else. Yeah.
Okay.
But good question.
Jazakallah khair.
Any other questions, brothers? Then inshallah khair, we'll close it here. And hopefully you guys can go and catch your Isha prayer. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله
وعليكم
وبركاته.
السلام ورحمة الله.